We're making easy and delicious protein biscuits that are a healthier twist on the Red Lobster biscuits. They're high in protein with Greek yogurt and cheddar cheese and gluten-free with almond flour. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla, and if you love healthier recipes to our favorite foods, then you are in the right place. To make these really easy biscuits, we're going to start with a mixing bowl, and we'll begin by adding our wet ingredients. And we'll start with plain Greek yogurt. Now it's very important that you use Greek yogurt because it's much thicker than regular yogurt. Because if you use regular yogurt, then these biscuits are going to be too wet and they won't rise. So we'll add half a cup of the Greek yogurt to our bowl. Now you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below, and that will take you to the full recipe on my website that has nutrition facts, ingredients and substitutions, as well as frequently asked questions. Next we'll crack in 1 egg and 2 tablespoons of butter. And you'll want to make sure that your butter is at least room temperature. You can also take cold fridge butter and just melt it in your microwave. And then we'll just take our whisk and we're going to blend this together until well incorporated. Next, we're going to add our dry ingredients, which includes 1 1/4 cups of almond flour. Now there are additional flours that you can use, and you'll find a table with all the measurements on the recipe link. Next, we'll add 1/4 cup of tapioca flour. Now I almost forgot to add the honey when we had all the wet ingredients, but that's okay because we can add it now. Now the honey is optional, but I find that it adds just a touch of sweetness that makes these biscuits really good. So we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of honey. And honey is really sticky, so I find I can just kind of eyeball what 2 tablespoons would be. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And you'll want to make sure that your baking powder is fresh or these biscuits will not rise. And then for our seasonings, we're going to add half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a couple dashes of pepper. Now you can amp up the seasoning if you like, but I do recommend making a batch first, and then you can always adjust it for your second batch. And then I'll just come in with my spatula and then mix this together until we have a nice soft dough. And you could use a mixer for this, but I find the spatula works really well because you can just kind of mash it all together till it's well incorporated. Now if you could use more healthy inspiration on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected. Now once all the ingredients are incorporated, we're going to have this really nice kind of sticky dough. And you want it to be just sticky enough that it sticks to your finger, but it's still nice and fluffy. So if it's too wet, you can add a little bit more almond flour, and if it's too dry, you can add a little bit more Greek yogurt. Next, we'll add 3 ounces of shredded cheese, and I like using a sharp cheddar cheese, but you could use any variety that you like. And then we'll just fold that in real quick with our spatula. And then to bake these biscuits, I like first lining my pan with a sheet of parchment paper, so it makes it really easy for getting the biscuits on and off of the pan. And then you can decide how big you want your biscuits to be. I find that 5 or 6 works really well. So I'll just kind of visually divide my dough in my bowl, and then I'll just use a fork to get it down onto our sheet. Now these will spread slightly, so you want to make sure you give them a couple inches in between. Now you could weigh out your dough as you're doing this to make sure they're all the same size, but I find it a little bit quicker to just kind of eyeball it once I have them all divvied out. So I can tell that this one is a little bit bigger and this one's a little bit smaller. So we're just going to kind of redistribute some of this dough. And just like those Red Lobster biscuits, I like having it just kind of really chunky and free form. So I'm going to go around with my fork and just kind of rough them up a little bit on the top. Now this is optional, but I really like adding a little egg whitewash to the top of the biscuits. And this will give them a slightly more crispy exterior while they're soft and spongy on the inside. So I've just separated 1 egg white from the yolk. Now I'll take my little pastry brush, and then I'm just going to coat the top and sides of the biscuit with the egg white. And you don't need to do too much, just a light coat will do fine. And the brush helps you get it down into those crevices. And as it bakes, it'll give you a real beautiful golden color on top of the biscuit. Well, these look incredible, and they're ready to go into a 350-degree oven for anywhere between about 18 to 22 minutes. And you'll want to take them out as soon as you start to get that golden color on the top of the biscuits. Well, here are our biscuits right out of the oven, and they are gorgeous and smell incredible. I love how they're golden on top with the little toasted edges. Now you'll want to let these cool for about 10 to 15 minutes, but I do have one that I made yesterday, and I just put it in the microwave for about 20 seconds, and it is all warm and cheesy and ready to enjoy again. So these are really great for batch prepping or making about 20-30 minutes before dinner time. You can see how nice and soft they are and how spongy and cheesy they are on the inside. That is so good. I love the texture that's just a little bit crispy on the outside, and then it is just soft and fluffy and cheesy on the inside. And the flavor is amazing. You get so much depth from the almond flour, as well as the spices, and the Greek yogurt makes them just a little bit tangy. And then it has just the little edge of the honey that is so good. And I want to thank you for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. I've included the link to this full recipe and it's in the video description below. That takes you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.